Hello, my name is Tina Parrish, and this is Tina Parrish Coaching. This class is called Functional Movement, and the focus for Functional Movement class is a beginner foundation training class. Foundation training really is about grounding, anchoring, and posture with lots of specific cues. Getting activated mostly in your lower body, and there's two specific moves that we're going to use in foundation training. This is really valuable stuff. It can help increase your mobility, your strength, and even cardio and speed if you get that grounding foundation movement in. So let's go ahead and get started. So we'll have a stance that's a little bit wider than shoulder or shoulder if you're comfortable. And we'll just start some basic foundation cues, but then we'll go into our normal warm up from there. Foundation training really is about starting with the feet. So you don't have to be barefoot, but I do encourage you for at least 20 minutes a day to experience some barefoot. Even if you're sitting, just experience your whole foot. So whether your feet are on the floor or in your shoes, I want you to press your big toe. You don't have to press it too hard, but just that awareness, especially that big toe ball joint. And now come out to your pinky and see if you can feel your pinky toe. Even going into the space between the tip of your toe and where your foot is at and trying to get that ball joint pinky. Now start pressing on the outside of your feet. What's interesting about that is you should start to experience something happening with your knees. Actually some alignment and some pushing out, because this is great for those that have pronation, that tend to come inward for support. And when you push on the outside of the feet, the knees start to align, and I think you start to feel a lot of contraction, muscle usage in the ham area, and even in the lower area of your shins. Now press into your heels. So you should be feeling a lot of activation, like, wow, I'm solid. I'm feeling muscles being used in that stance. And now release. And just remember that we're going to come back to that grounding foundational move. So let's do a forward fold, 20 seconds. You can do several or you can do one. You don't have to do range. Forward fold is just where you're going to come forward. And then back up. And I give you all the permission to bend your knees in order for you not to flex the center of your back or your thoracic spine. You can take 10% of your body weight, the upper body. You can take 20. You can take more than that. It's whatever you're feeling comfortable doing. And let's get another foundation training cue going in. It helps later when we really get into these foundation moves that you have in cues. Imagine as you come forward that someone pushing your hips back a little bit, as if their hands were on your hips and they're pulling your weight back. They can freeze, and you can feel that a little bit more, what that would feel like to have those hands on your hips pulling you back. Again, soften your knees. And if you like those cues that I gave you with the toes, you can bring those in anytime, that nice grounding. Pressing of the big toe, the outer pinky, outside in the heels as you get pulled back. Yeah, feel the hands a little bit more when you feel those imaginary hands on the hip. And now we're going to come back. We're going to stretch the front in the same plane. We're just going to come back more, and just for 20 seconds. So at the very least, give the glutes a good squeeze so you can stretch the hip flexors. And then you can decide if there's more parts of your body, such as your chest and even your neck, that you want to elongate. Now it's a little bit of an opposite gravitational pull, as if there are ropes on the front of your hips and someone's pulling that forward. Go back to the big toe, go back to the pinky, the outside of the feet and the heels. If you don't feel secure, then definitely intensify some of the usage of some of the smaller glutes, gluteus minimus, gluteus medius. Drop the jaw. And open the chest up. Great. All right, we're going to go on sides, stretching the frontal, which are actually the sides, stretching the frontal plane. We'll start with another foundation training cue, which is hands on the chest and sort of lifting up the rib cage a little bit more so we can bring some more breath in. So I want you to breathe deep. Nice and tall. As we start to begin the process of stretching the sides of the body, and let's go ahead and lift one arm to do that. So you start to feel the rib cage, the serratus, separating, opening up a little bit more. We want to be careful with the spine. So we're stretching one side and the other side is naturally going to contract. That's just how the body works. And so you can shift out the hip if you're willing to get that contraction on and that lifting. And breathe in and out. Keep the rib cage lifted. Keep the air intake coming in. And then come back. So I'm really hitting into the torso area, not going with range. I could be putting my leg back. That's always up to you. But just feeling the opening of that rib cage and just really folding in that foundation training cue. So again, hands on the rib cage, to the rib cage open, you'll feel compressing in here. You might want to just squeeze the glutes a little bit, ease up where the pelvis is sitting. If you feel like it's just too much rounded there, lift up. Begin stretching the rib cage, serratus, by lifting an arm. And then you can shift out the hip if you want to add more stretching, but continue to breathe and lift. This gets us properly in that frontal or side plane without leaning forward to do that stretch. We want a lifting and opening of the ribs. Feel that elongation process happening as gravity starts to compress things in a little bit of a negative way sometimes. All right, transverse plane. So that's where we pivot and add the additional rotation. Let's get the feet a little bit wider and see if you're able to pivot into a staggered stance, also known as pyramid, and you are able to lift up that back heel if you want, and it turns it more into a lunge. Don't have to bend all the way, be a lunge position, whatever you're comfortable with. I want you to think of your legs scissoring together. Here's another foundational movement. As if your legs were scissors and they were trying to close. Can you feel that contraction, that tightening that's happening in the glutes and the lower parts of the legs? And now begin a rotation as you scissor. Nice and easy. And soft knees. At any point in these cues, you're feeling like your knees are kind of crunching or tightening, go soft on that and you can still feel that scissoring connection. All right, pivoting again. Going through the feet, going through the ankles, hitting that pyramid, staggered stance, lunging with the back heel lifting, it's your call. Feel the scissoring, right? I can feel it with the heel up, I can feel it with the heel down, whatever you're comfortable with. And begin your rotation. Softening the knees, keeping the weight aligned between both legs. And then relax. It's a nice foundation of really activating the lower body. Can allow you to get into a deeper rotation and feel a little bit more comfortable with that. All right. There's our 3 planes of movements, right? I'll make sure we can move in all those directions today and be aware of areas that are a little bit sensitive for you. Let's deepen the shoulders and let's deepen the hips a little bit more. You go ahead and use a chair. I'm going to go a little bit wider. I'm going to go with a forward fold. This is actually one of the foundational movements or foundation training. It's a wide leg forward fold. So bring in a bit more of those cues. As you go a little bit wider than what we had before, not too wide, press down on your big toe. See if you can press down on your pinky toe. Push the outside of your feet and into your heels. And just release for that minute. I really want to take it slow so you can feel these differences of the hips opening up, other things happening, how the knees are feeling, softening on the knees. And let's get back into it again. So we're not trying to scrunch the feet together and clench the mat or clench the floor. We're just trying to feel those sensations pressing down. Big toe pressing down, pinky pressing down, outside of the heels, or outside of the feet and into the heels. And then see if you can sink back. And again, that feeling of hands on the hips as your weight shifts back. And then take your time aiding the chair coming up. Later, we won't use the chair. I'll be folding in more foundation training cues, but just trying to layer them in a reasonable way to start to hear them more and more. One more time. Wide leg, pressing into the big toe, pinky, outside of the feet. That really starts to direct the knees exactly where they need to be, and into the heels, stretching back. Putting as if someone's hands are on your hips and pulling you back. Foundation training, this move is really designed to alleviate a lot of back pain. All right, stepping back into downward facing dog. We just want to elongate a little bit more. You don't have to go too wide on this, maybe just shoulder. And start pushing back a little bit further. Inviting the shoulders a little bit more and feeling the flexibility of the thoracic spine. So you can roll up, do a little cat-cow or just tabletop if you don't enjoy the cow portion of that, the compression. Elongating the lumbar and feeling flexion as we move up into the middle of the back of the thoracic. A little bit of shoulder strength there too if you want it, but you don't have to take it. Breathe in, breathe out. Continue to stretch. Let's try a little bit of shoulder scaption. So that's where we retract, where the blades come together. So without bending your elbows, see if you can squeeze a lemon between your shoulder blades and push yourself back up. Squeeze the lemon, push yourself back up. Squeeze the lemon, push yourself back up. So when we're pushing out, that's a state of protraction, and we'll need that later with some foundation training with those moves. So we need to know the difference between retraction, squeezing, and protraction, spreading the wings. Back to flexion of the thoracic, adding in any scaption, protraction, retraction you feel like doing. And then see if you can inch your feet a little bit forward more so we can get that sensation again of someone's hands on our hips. You know, maybe step to half an inch to an inch closer. Someone's hands on your hips pulling you back again. So that vertical line of ankle to knee to hip is actually going to be at a bit of an angle now. Definitely feeling the heels more. And as you feel the heels more, you're going to get a better ham stretch. Elongating the lumbar and bringing some flexion, some cat-cow in the thoracic. A little bit of protraction, retraction. All right, your best forward fold. This is as low as you can go. You can get your hands off the chair. What you're comfortable with here. It's always okay to bend the knees to get a little bit lower as opposed to choosing the center of the back around you now. And then you can use the chair to come up, whatever you're comfortable with. I'll give you more cues later coming up. Taking that 30% of that body weight and using the lower body to be able to lift up. Excellent job. Let's go a little bit wider, open the hips up a little bit more, see how the knees are feeling. So I'm on that wide leg forward fold. Get into the foundation cues. I want to feel the big toe, the outside of the feet, the pinky, and the heel. And then start bending side to side, taking away the body weight, the upper body weight, 30% of your body weight by leaning into that chair. And seeing what mobility is like in the knees. In order to get that great inner adductor stretch, we do need to bend the knee. That's why I encourage you to take that body weight and put it on the chair. If it's too much body weight for that knee. Side to side. Remember the Grand Canyon rule. It's optional to go down. It is not optional to come back up. You do have to come back up. So make your range decisions wisely. I want to open up the hips a little bit more. It's as simple as getting into a warrior leg, which means all I need to do is really just pivot one foot. And so I have this intersecting foot. So I have that front back heel intersecting the middle of my back foot. And as you bend side to side, that allows the hip to open in a new way. So pivot at quarter turn and then switch the other foot and bend. You go side to side. You're welcome to take the body weight off the chair if you think your knee is okay with that. One more time each side, and then we'll come up and we'll do a little pelvic rotation, a little bit more spinal addressing, get into the cervical, and then go into the shoulders. Okay. Come up a little bit wider than shoulder length, if not shoulder length. And let's think of the pelvis as a bucket of water, very filled to the brim. And we'll imagine holding it steady so the water doesn't spill out. Go back to the foundation cues. Big toe, little toe, outside of feet, drop in the heels, soften the knees. Okay, nice steady lower body to keep that pelvis in the bucket of water nice and steady. But now I want you to dump some water out the back. So without moving any part of your body other than the pelvis, how would you spill water out the back? Begin squeezing the glutes. Right, little droplets of water coming out as you're stretching the hip flexors and squeezing the butt. And then steady release back to center. Now we want to spill some out the front. So let's be careful because this is a kind of cow position. It is compression of the lumbar. Without moving any other part of your body other than your hips. How would you spill a little bit of water out the front? And then back up to center and repeat. This is an important part of the body to know how to move and know how to settle because it holds your spine. It can really affect your posture. Excellent. All right, we got that bucket of water. Now we want to spill out the sides of it. So we need to think about how does it shift in the frontal or side plane. We want to spill a little bit of water out the side. Big toe, little toe, outside feet, heels. Haven't lost that, and soft knees. As you tilt side to side. Simple, gentle movements. Getting to know our bodies. That can be difficult, and you want to sense, am I coming from somewhere else other than my hips when I want to make that move? Can I just move the bucket? Can I just move the hips when I'm doing that? Okay, now think of your pelvis as a clock. We want to hit all these numbers. We want to move around in a circle. It's a small circle. So squeeze and come up to 12. And go either direction, 11 or 1. What does it feel like to start to move around those numbers? Know when you've hit 6. Know when you've hit 3 or 9 and back to 12. Very, very subtle movements. Big toe, little toe, outside of foot, heel, soft knees. It can really help move that pelvis correctly. And opposite direction. Body only knows what it's been told and shown. So we're trying to do different kind of patterns, learn different kind of movements, get into those 640 skeletal muscles. And move some ones that might be moving. And I'll leave some ones that maybe do too much work for us. Okay, into the neck. Special treatment for the neck. Foundation training cues, lower body, boom. Toes, that's right, outside heel, soft knee. Okay. Palms facing forward. And let's just do a gentle neck roll side to side. Loosening the jaw. And then let's move up with the foundation cues. Hands on the ribs. and open up the ribs. And you might do some adjusting with the pelvis, which is a nice pelvis movement, so you know how to move the bucket just a little bit. Hands on the ribs, lift up. Take some deep breaths in. And now try a neck roll again. So any adjustments made in the pelvis to help support the spine. Okay, salamander stretch. That's where the same ear goes to the same shoulder. Again, there can be a need to move other parts of the body if you feel stiff or that part of the body you're not in tune to. Foundation training cues, lower body, rib cage, ear to shoulder. That's not a deep move. It's just a aware move. There can be some tightness. We can feel it down the trapezius, which goes to the base of the skull and works like a diamond, meets up with the lower lumbar. So there can be some tightness there as we cross. And then we're going to bring chin down to the chest, which is a nice stretch for the upper trapezius. Rib cage open. And it makes such a difference on that stretch. We don't end up jamming our chin into our chest when the rib cages have a little bit more. Getting a nice deeper stretch on the cervical, upper thoracic. All right, one more movement here. Now I want you to settle your head as your rib cage lift. Bring foundation training over your head as if you're balancing it. Your head is not attached to your body, but you're sort of placing your head over your torso, having it just sort of balance there to the best of your ability. And now I want you to feel the realm of pushing your head forward and pushing back out of balance of the position you've just chosen. Remember, we're just moving the neck, so don't let the shoulders change and move with you. You're in a great position right now with the rib cage up, chest open, and just move the neck. And then align that neck again where you want it to be, just balancing directly over your torso. Breathe in and out. One minor adjustment here. This is a foundation training cue. Stay with me, you're gonna need it. I want you to feel you lifting at the base or the back of the skull. Now that might change where your chin goes, maybe come down a little bit, you might come back a little bit. Knowing that there's a lift happening right there. Excellent, and then release, relax, come out of that. Grab your water. And it's around here somewhere. And we will get started on the shoulders. First half of the class is always focused on mobility, but I'm really going to put that word grounding before the mobility. Foundation training is teaching me a lot about grounding comes first, then comes mobility. And the second half of the class really is about the strengthening. We get into circuits, things like that. We use what we used in the first half. The muscles are pretty conditioned and ready to contract and develop some strength. So have your band, need a band for this, have it nearby. Let's just make sure the shoulders feel their range. So much of this beginner class, foundation training, functional movement, really has to do with anchoring in and feeling that groundedness of the lower. But as we get into the intermediate and advanced on foundation training, functional movement, you'll see the upper body being worked out a lot more. First with the wrists. Nice little pullback. We have a circuit at the end of the second half of this class where we do have the option of coming down to the chair and doing a plank. And it requires you being okay with this. And so this is a good indicator as to whether or not you want to put that pressure. You kind of figure that out when you were doing your downward facing dog stretch, how much body weight you like to put on or not put on when you're stretching. Okay, roll the shoulders back. Let's go ahead and pull one arm. Give it a little stretch there. And then switch opposite side, grab the wrist and pull. Make sure shoulders So I'm not asking you to get in or stretch the spine, just stretching the shoulders so nice and steady with the lower body. Hands on the shoulders. Let's go for a range. This is a nice functional basic move. Bursitis, rotator cuff issues. It's just a good indicator for you to see like what is the movement like. And it's actually a great chest stretch and strengthening for the middle of the back. So whether you go low or whether you go high, it's just a great range movement to see how things are functioning in the shoulder. And then we're going to add the band, right? So that was mobility. And then we give or flexion. Flexion. Mobility is where we add flexion with some resistance. And the band makes great resistance. So mobility is always going to be a little touch harder than flexion. Give the band a little bit of pull. Bring it up. And see what your range is like. The optimal goal is coming all the way behind, but it's not something that you want to push. It's something you're not used to doing. You want nice strong elbows. If your elbows are bowing or bending, I want you to slide your hands back. What's great about this band is that you can control the ounces to pounds of what you want to pull. If you don't have a band, a large t-shirt will work. So you hold one sleeve and you hold the corner of the opposite side of the t-shirt. You make it work. So a little bit of advancement. If this doesn't work, I want you to fall back in the previous exercise. It's just called you're regressing. There's nothing wrong with that. You're just taking the regression as opposed to progression. You're going to movement that works for you. And then so let's push it a little bit further. I'm going to take the band and I'm going to put it behind. I'm actually going to double that. I'm going to put it behind. I'm going to grab it. I'm going to grab as high as I can and see if you can pull down. There's a lot of contracting going on posterior that's behind you. So there's a lot of back muscles that are tightening and strengthening. Just care about that bucket. How would you like that bucket, that pelvis, and even coming down to your feet? Chest should open. You want to try and get your elbow out of the line of sight of your eyes, right? So it's come really close. You're going to see it too much. You want to see if you can pull it back a little bit more. And then switch positions. You're always going to be better at one than the other. Again, the body only knows what you show it. So certain patterns can make certain muscles short and tight, and other ones too long and loose. And we all have these disbalances or see these imbalances in our body. Taking, pulling down. Breathe in, breathe out. And then optional overhead. I know things can start to get a little tough overhead, so you can go back to repetition of pulling the arms behind, or even just a little bit of a yoga seal if you want to lift. If you don't care to do the overhead, I'm going to bring one arm up. I'll come down on my knees. I'm not asking you to do this, just so you can see. And I'm going to anchor and hold, and I'm going to pull. Let's go a little bit lighter. It's a lot of weight. Good classic example of body working, muscles stretched out, eccentric action, and asking them to be strong when they're lengthened. That's hard. And come out of that. And that's an experience we'll have with foundation training in some of these moves, where your muscles are being asked to stretch and to hold you up. And that can be hard, but it can also properly build the muscle. All right, a little bit more water. We're making this transition now into the second half of the class. Circuits, strength training. And for this first set, we're going to go over those foundation training moves, and you'll see them throughout the rest of the set. Okay, you already have so many cues underway. The first move is a wide leg forward fold. No problem, we've already worked on that. Get you to call on your toes, big toe, little toe. We're going wide. Outside of the feet, start to soften the knees start to go in the direction they need to go, and feel the heel. Breathe in, breathe out. We got our posture. I want you to feel you pulling from the base of the skull. Do some pelvic work, do some adjustments of where you want that pelvis to be. Posture in alignment. Now we're going to the breath, hands on the rib cage. So you should feel some lifting, maybe a little bit more adjusting with the pelvis as that lifts. Breathe deep, as if you're trying to bring that air to the back of the rib cage. This helps also with the elongation process. We don't end up hunching down in this position, and when we start to do a forward fold on the one leg. And now we're going into arms. We still hang on the cues. Okay, toes, heels, outside soft knees, rib cage lifting. You're gonna go into creating what's called a sphere of tension. Put your fingers together, put your thumbs together, and press. Have some protraction, but I'm not asking you to do range on the protraction. Just have some protraction as opposed to retraction. Right? All the cues in place. Now you're ready to bend forward. Hands on the hips. And if someone has hands on their hips, as if they're pulling your weight back. As you go forward, you feel the retract or protraction, but you're not extending. Feeling your feet. Heels outside, toes. Imaginary hands on the hips pulling. Sphere of tension pushing. Now as you come up, feel that lift coming from the back of the neck. Excellent. Come out of it. Relax, release. Whew. Right? Lots of tension, lots of groundedness, lots of using muscles in the correct way. And most of foundation training is to alleviate back pain. So second move with foundation training is going to be a staggered stance or pyramid, if you want to call it that. We can even call it a lunge, and I'm calling it a lunge because you're lifting the back heel. Not so much, you're softening the knees, but we don't have to come all the way down. Toes. Have your preference. You want the heel down or you want the heel up, and you can experiment with both. Weight is being distributed between both legs. Definitely be some more balance issues going on this. Now let's go to that cue with the scissoring. Ooh, all of a sudden everything tightens up, right? Glutes tighten up, even core tightens up. A little bit more stable balance. Back to the breath. Feel the lift at the base of the spine as you breathe deep. Sphere of tension. Bringing that in. Not looking for the complete extension or range, just feeling that tension. You're stretching the side of the leg that's back. That gets a lot of stretching. You're strengthening and using a lot of that leg in front. Now we're going to hip hinge forward. Feeling that big toe, feeling the pinky, feeling the heel, feeling the back foot. And it's up to you how much body weight you want to take forward. It's 30% of your body weight. You can just have 10% forward, 20%, you can have more. And then pull at the base of the spine as you're coming up. Right? It brings you center, back to center. And then release. And switch. Notice differences. You probably had your good one. Your leg you prefer in front. So balance issues will be different. Start with the big toe in front. The pinky, the outside of the feet. Start to feel the knee soften and the heel. It's a lot of work in itself. The back foot, you want stabilization too. Center your weight. Start with your scissoring. Lift the rib cage. Breathe. Feel a lift at the back of the spine. That should have your chin come down just a little bit as you feel that lift coming up. Sphere of tension. Protraction, but not extensive protraction. Press. Begin hinging forward. Keep your weight centered. And you're hinging, so I'm not bending at the middle of my back, I'm hinging at the hips. to the base of your spine. That's what lifts you up, brings you back into place. Contracting, scissoring, feeling all of it. And then releasing. Breathe in, breathe out. A lot of work when you start to give these cues. The body's holding much like it does in the plank or anything else that's strenuous or tough and does good stuff for the muscle. All right, let's go into our sets. We don't want to lose the feeling of that lower body, those foundation training cues. So I want you to bring that in at all times. The feet, the softening of the knees, lifting of the rib cage, back of the skull, and even we'll be doing the sphere of tension. So we're going to go to a Romanian deadlift. Not looking for range, not in the beginner. Looking for you just more to incorporate these foundation training and grounding. Put it under general house. Where our Feldenkrais goes, where our balance goes, where our posture goes. It's that word grounding. Looking for you to feel more of that grounding. And then we'll slowly progress this. So I want you to start squeezing the glutes on the way up. And getting that nice glute squeeze in there and feeling that contraction there. If there's any point or any part of this workout that you're like, I enjoy this move more than the other, I don't like them together, then you just stick with that one move. So for example, right now, you could just go into that glute squeeze, feeling those foundation cue training words, and just focus on that glute squeeze if you don't want to do that Romanian deadlift. But we do need to be able to pick things up, figure out how to do that without pain. Okay, I'm going to add the sphere of tension. I'm going to protract, but I'm not going to range and extend as far as I can. I'm going to protract. I'm going to feel that pressure point, that pushing. Get outside my toes, get all my cues going on. Come up, squeeze. Now you're feeling it in your core. How much you're pressing. Just lay down on all my nice cards that I have lined up for the cards. Excellent. And so let's bring in an object. So a pillow or a ball. Put it on pause and get that. Pillow or a ball. I'm not going to go with a weight because we don't want to fight gravity. We don't want the thing to be dropping down. We want just a sphere of tension to create that same feeling that we have by pushing and using inner muscles. Very different than if we were pulling the band, doing the exact opposite. So I'm going to add that Romanian deadlift if you can. I'm going to squeeze the ball, sphere of tension, and squeezing the glutes. See how many points of foundation training you can bring in. Toes, outside, heels, hips being pulled back, squeezing, sphere of tension, lifting the rib cage, back of the head, and adding the glutes there. Come up, just a couple to get a feel for it. I won't do it on every move. Just start to bring that in and see what intermediate will look like. All right, so into that staggered stance. We'll change legs, so it doesn't matter. Heel can be up or heel can be down. I want your weight to be centered and not on one leg as opposed to the other. Foundation training cues, feeling the whole feet, big toe, little toe outside. So as soon as you feel it outside, you start to feel your knee to where it needs to be, and then your heel. Scissoring. Boom, big contraction, keeping you in place. Hips face forward. Breathe in and out, rib cage lifts. Back of the head, face the skull lifts. Excellent, sphere of tension. Pressing together, excellent. And then moving forward. Back up, making sure you're squeezing. Softening the knee if you can, coming from the hip hinge and not the center of the back. Should be feeling it in the core. And let's add the ball. Let's come out of it. Same side. Posture. So that means feet, knees, back of head. Breath. Sphere of tension. Scissoring. One more. Hinging as opposed to bending. So if I was going to do it differently, if I wasn't going to hinge, I would be bending and come down as opposed to hinging. We're not going for range, we're just going for feeling and stability. Switching to the other side. Posture. Points of contact, 4 of them on the feet. Scissoring. Is that special cue? In staggered stance. Base of skull or back of skull. Into breath. Rib cage lifting. Arms, sphere of tension. Hip hinge. It's up to you on the hinge, what you're comfortable with. Again, it's not about range, it's about feeling and feeling that contraction and coming from the right place in your body. Can lift that back heel, it's completely your call. Can you keep your weight centered on both feet? That's what constitutes really a lunge. Back up, I'm gonna get a ball. Don't have to. Just want that separate object to be able to push into. Posture. Breathing. Sphere of tension. And then the actual move to hinge. Three or four moves at minimum, 1 or 2, and that's all you can do. Says it might be too much. Something might be too much for you. Find out a way to make it a little bit lighter. Okay. Going into a transverse plane move using the foundation training cues. That can be twisting, that can be pivoting. So you want to be careful about where we're coming from. I'm going to really anchor you down, lower body below. So you're not going to be coming from there. You're going to be coming from the thoracic and rib cage when you rotate. And of course, you know, the lumbar, 640 skeletal muscles, so you can all affect one another. Just be aware. If you're grounded and anchored in those foundation training movements, you're a lot safer when you're getting onto a rotation. Posture, toes, side of feet, soften knees and heels. Feel that contracting there. Lift from the base of the skull, and then we'll arrange your neck. Just do slight movements there where you feel best your head is sitting. Rib cage lifts. Adjustment maybe in the pelvis. Breathe in and out. Sphere of tension. Extend all the way, but I'm going to create pressure and some contraction. So now we're going to go rotate. Add the thoracic. You can have limited range, but boy, you're going to feel it. Keep feeling that heel. Drive those heels in. See what they do in terms of contracting and really holding that body firmly in a move that can bring a lot of injury. If we're not careful. Is there some cervical movement there? Is there some neck turning? And release, relax. Always want you to feel that, like, the difference between all those foundation cues and then when you go into relaxation. Oh yeah, I was contracting, I was holding into the ball. So new, again, you don't have to use it. It's just nice to have different objects and feel that sphere of tension pushing in. Posture. Toes outside, knees start to soften, get in the direction, press into the heels. Lift from the back of the spine. Rib cage, adjust your pelvis. Elongate, breathe. Sphere tension. Some protraction, but not full range. Begin to move through rotation. A lot more stabilized, again, for a precarious move and a precarious area. It's likely one of the areas you are going to move today. We're going to need to do this move. Keep feeling the big toe, the heel, the outside of the feet. Amazing what changes when you start to address what's really happening in the feet. The ligaments, the tendons, the muscles, the bones. Come center. Great. Okay, one more set here. And it can be done two different ways. It's really about how do you want to create that sphere of tension. If you're perfectly happy, pushing your fingers together. And it's all about core. When I bring the hands up, it's a lot about core. Are you best upright in a vertical position in these next exercises, creating your sphere of tension as you go on a single leg and do movements? Or do you feel like your sphere of tension can be created in a plank position? You're getting the same thing, it's just whether or not you want to do that to your wrists and your shoulders. So I want you to pick and choose. One move for both positions. So we're going to do a single leg knee in. So if I was standing to do that, and I'll do the first set standing, I'll do the second set on the chair. Maybe you want to do it the same way. Sphere of tension. Feel that in your core. Come onto a single foot, and now you really need to bring those cues into the big toe, into the little toe, into the side of the foot, and into the heel as you go into a knee in. Not bending the spine, you're looking on the range on the hip. Rib cage, right? Posture, breath, and sphere of tension in our foundation training. And release, come out of it. The move gives you it all. That balance, that strengthening. You've got nice proper posture, doing the spine, you got hip hinge, you got it all in there. I'm going to do the second set on the chair. I will be doing the opposite leg. Same thing. So different cues. We can still lift in the back of the skull. We can still lift the rib cage up. Sphere of tension is very different when you're in a plank, but it's the same exact feelings that we're going for, same exact muscles. It's a matter of whether or not you want to do that extra upper body work. Same thing, give you another move. It's your choice how you want to do it, and I'll keep doing one up and one on the chair. Okay, then breathe out. So we're going to do a leg lift. So we're bringing in leg behind. Posture cues. All to one side, one foot. Lift from the base of the spine, begin your breath. Create the sphere of tension. And push the leg back. Now we're working the glute a bit. If you want to hinge a little bit, alleviate any back pain that you might be feeling in the lumbar, that's fine. With all those points, really breaking it down in posture. Breath, sphere of tension. Double check. and then come out of it. And you're going to go to the other side. Do my sphere of tension in a plank position. All of us are getting the glutes. All of us are feeling it in the core. Bit of balance going on for both. Excellent. Let's come out of that. So you're able to get through the circuits. So we end up with some nice stretching travelers stretches, which were several months back. In functional movement, I always pick a theme. So if you're enjoying these classes, functional movement, pick a different theme. Themes, I have length training, I have travelers exercises, which these 3 great ones are from. Let's go to seated staff pose, just to make sure that you're core aware, taking the legs out. If you want to sit up and you don't want to lose that all the way, you can begin to bring a prop. I need to lift my leg, spine does not bend. Bring the knee towards the same armpit. Nice lumbar stretch without rounding out the center of your back. Extend your knee, and let's go into a little bit of nerve flossing. So we do not stretch nerves, we floss nerves. Just like flossing with our teeth, we want those nerves to run over the top of the fascia, which covers the muscles. Run smoothly, it gets pinched. That's when we start to feel a little bit of nerve pain. Let's bring that leg slowly over the opposite knee. Do your best to get into your sit bones. Go back to your foot. You feel the big toe, little toe, the outside the heel. How does that keep that leg aligned? As that leg supports the hip you're stretching. When we add the sphere of tension, just start combining a lot of elements here. We've got some travelers exercise, great hip stretch. We're bringing in our foundation movement cues, and then a nice Pilates neck roll. We turn side to side. Wonderful. Repeat opposite side. Just double check the seated staff pose. All is good. Not bending at the center of the back. Bring up a prop. Everything's still good. Lift up a leg. Everything's still good. Bend the knee towards the armpit. Without rounding. Sometimes all we have is this. It's a little stiff in the lumbar, and that's okay. Extend the knee and nerve floss. Just with something moving the ankle back and forth. We're going to cross that ankle over the knee, but we can start to work on this foot right away. You can feel the big toe, little toe outside of the feet, pressing in the heels, getting stable there. Crossing over, sitting into the hip bones. Feeling that foot. Going into a sphere of tension. And then Pilates neck roll. All right, last move. So, foundation movement done in a chair. So if you found that it's too much in this beginner class to be standing and doing that initial wide leg forward fold, try it in a chair. You're still going to need the big toe, pinky toe, outside the feet and the heel. Sphere of tension. And hip hinge forward. Bringing in the air. All your great cues. And from the back of the neck, lift up. It's great to hit repeat, or again, do these if the one standing are too much for you. Thanks for watching. And watch for the functional movement, intermediate and advanced classes coming up.